Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. It's time for another DPS Showdown, and today's is a doozy, so buckle up and get ready for the first DPS Showdown of mine to feature 4 characters, Cyno, Xiao, Keqing, and Razor. Most of you returning viewers will know by now that my DPS Showdowns tend to feature Constellation 6 5-star characters. However, even though that is somewhat kind of true for this one, the focus on this DPS Showdown is on Constellation 0 Cyno. This is going to be a Constellation 0 Cyno versus quote-unquote Constellation 0 Xiao versus quote-unquote Constellation 1 Keqing and an actual Constellation 6 Razor. But first, it's time to pay some bills, and today's sponsor is NordVPN. Do you care about your privacy, or are you fine with everything of yours being uploaded to the Akasha network? Well, that's where NordVPN comes in, as it will protect your privacy from those pesky academians. NordVPN is obscenely easy to use, protecting your privacy with just a single click. Connect up to 6 devices with over 5,500 servers in 59 countries. I personally use NordVPN to play Phantasy Star Online 2 on the JP servers because they IP block anyone outside of Japan. Just go to nordvpn.com/iwantolosegaming to protect your browsing experience. There are currently 3 epic deals to choose from. The standard VPN, the Plus package, which adds the Nord Pass to generate and secure your top secret passwords, and the Complete package, which adds Nord Locker, which encrypts and allows you to store and access files from anywhere. But that's not all. You'll also get a bonus 4 months on top of all these plans and products. It's risk-free and has a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to nordvpn.com/iwantolosegaming to get some huge discounts today. Huge thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. I wanted to get a rough general idea of how strong Constellation 0 Cyno is compared to some reasonable competitors. So what better way than to use the most infallible method ever created, democracy. I threw out this poll for you guys and you all made it very difficult on me with Keqing and Razor being so close. I decided to break my back to add another contestant to have our first ever 4-character DPS Showdown. So now with this aggravatingly long and drawn out explanation that could have been razored into 4 words, more friends competing, good, we can finally explain how this is going to work. To start, I decided on a couple new ingredients to spice things up for today's DPS Showdown, such as using Battle Pass weapons. I also wanted to normalize for low Constellation power levels, and well, Cyno is at Constellation 0, so there's no issue with him. He is using a Refinement 5 deathmatch, and he is using the Gladiator's Finale for his artifact set. His damage potential is at a very healthy 84% when compared to a Triple Crown Constellation 0 Gilded Dreams Cyno. My Keqing, however, is unfortunately at Constellation 6. Fortunately though, besides Constellation 1, almost everything else here is just slightly bigger numbers. Constellation 1, I believe, adds an extra aggravate, and since Keqing is a standard banner character, a lot of you guys might actually have her at Constellation 1 by losing so many 50-50s over the last 2 years. Anyway, by intentionally using suboptimal artifact combinations, and even factoring in her Constellations 2 to 6, we can easily bring her damage potential down to around 80%. She is using a Refinement 4 Black Sword with the Thundering Fury as her artifacts. Next is our original favorite wolf boy, the favorite of every barber out there, Razor. Razor is using the Serpent Spine and the Thundering Fury for an aggravate DPS build. He's at Constellation 6 for this DPS Showdown, which I feel is reasonable considering he is an OG 4-star character. Sadly, my Razor's base damage potential is the lowest at 72%. But with the power of food and also math, we can easily bring him up to 80% in the overworld, and with the power of Abyss cards and math, he will be between 76 to 80% damage potential in the Abyss. Lastly, we have Xiao. Xiao is also using the deathmatch. He is using the 4-piece Vermilion Hereafter artifact set. So I'm not sure how to say this without offending some individuals, but besides Constellation 6 and maybe Constellation 1, Xiao's constellations are horrifically bad. Imagine spending around $1,000 to gain 100% more defense, only while your HP is under 50% HP. Seriously, miHoYo, this is an insult to every edgy teenage lad that saved up years of their allowance for it. Anyway, Xiao's constellations are profoundly easy to not use. Just give your poor E key a break by not mashing E after a plunge attack. My Xiao is at 78% damage potential when compared to a Triple Crown Constellation 0 Xiao Xiao. The events that our contestants will be put through are the obligatory solo damage showcase, the one teammate showcase so we can actually use aggravate for these aggravately built characters, and finally the full team Abyss 12 run. Since there are 4 contestants, we'll be doing 2 at a time because otherwise it gets way too cluttered on the screen. Also, the times displayed at the top of the screen are in seconds and frames, even if sometimes I read them out as decimals. And finally, for the most important part of this video, the disclaimers. All the times in this video can be improved. I simply do each of these runs a handful of times to the best of my abilities and problem solving. I advise for you not to come to any premature conclusions if you do not sit through these disclaimers and if you do not reach the end of this video. In fact, even after these disclaimers and the entire video, this video is not an accurate representation of these characters' power levels at all levels of investment and play. Just because character A is better than character B does not mean that character A is better than character B. There are most certainly oversized execution errors and improvements to be made. Please take everything with a giant grain of salt. Let's start with the solo damage showcase against our Regisfine friend with our 2 mask connoisseurs, Cyno and Xiao. I'm not sure how many of you are surprised by this, but Cyno's damage without aggravate isn't particularly great. This is because his elemental mastery stat isn't being fully utilized with the flat damage from aggravate. Cyno was able to take out the Regisfine in an aggravatingly long 11.95 seconds. Xiao's raw damage, being built with attack percent here, is significantly higher as he is not a character that relies on reactions to do damage. As such, Xiao had a comparatively blistering fast 8.37 second clear time. Next, let's take a look at the other 2 Electro participants, Keqing and Razor. Unfortunately, since Keqing is built with an elemental mastery timepiece, and since she's not even using her Constellation 4 here, her performance in this situation was god-awful to say the least. Keqing's raw electro damage output is terrible with an elemental mastery focused build, and she barely managed to take out the Regisfine in 17.45 seconds. And if you thought Keqing's raw electro damage with an elemental mastery build is bad, well, Razor's is even worse. Razor is usually built to do physical damage, so not only is he relying on his poor raw electro damage numbers, he is also running an elemental mastery timepiece, which further hurts his physical damage output. Razor wasn't even able to take out a Regisfine friend here before it got up, but he still managed to take it out in 20.3 seconds. But let's be real, in the era of Dendro, we are not here to see these elemental mastery focused electro characters do raw electro damage. We're here to see them be paired with Dendro and to do aggravate. Let's quickenly move on to the second showcase with just 1 teammate providing support, as well as Zhongli, so we don't have to dodge. The teammate for the electro characters is this Favonius Sword Noblesse Oblige Traveler, and for Xiao, I'm using a Sapwood Blade Bennett. Now, with 1 teammate providing buffs or reactions, Cyno's time was much closer to Xiao's in terms of a percentage in comparison to the Regisfine showcase. Aggravate allowed Cyno to close this gap and roast our poor robot chicken friend in 24.35 seconds. Xiao's higher raw elemental damage being further boosted by Bennett was enough to still allow him to pull ahead in this specific showcase. Also, this robot chicken is great for Xiao as he's able to also abuse its hitbox and get the plunge through hitbox to connect lot. Hence why I was doing the jet low plunge combo instead of the jet high plunge combo. Xiao squeaked out ahead of Cyno here with his 21.2 second clear time. Next up, let's see how good Keqing and Razor's chicken murdering capabilities are. Well, Keqing's performance here wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. Against a single, relatively stationary target like this robot chicken, if it's a single cycle fight like this, Cyno appears to do more DPS than Keqing here. Keqing was able to use her ability to swap out to her advantage by just a little bit, because I managed to swap Traveler back on to quickly reapply Dendro. But in this specific situation, that didn't help her enough for her to pull ahead of Cyno, and thus Keqing completed this in a comparatively long 32.77 seconds. Razor was even more unfortunate here. Our sad, homeless doggo friend simply doesn't output as much raw aggravated damage as either Keqing or Cyno. Now, I might have been able to save a few seconds here or there by not using Traveler's Burst a second time, blah blah blah, but it's still a reasonable enough run to get an idea for how he compares to the others. Razor wasn't able to single cycle this robot chicken, and as such I lost a lot of time doing a second rotation and completed it in 39.6 seconds. Our next volunteer is the only actual volunteer in the entire game, Super Masanori. So I think we're starting to see a pattern here. Despite Aggravate benefiting Cyno more than Bennett likely benefits Xiao, this still doesn't appear to be enough for Cyno to catch up to Xiao. And this is also the main reason why Traveler is using the Favonius instead of the Sapwood Blade, because with the Favonius, Traveler is actually able to get her burst up a second time, but without it, it's quite difficult because you can't swap Traveler on to do her elemental skill in between Cyno's burst. Thanks to the double Favonius of both Zhongli and Traveler, this team didn't have too many energy issues for this fight, and Cyno was able to complete this in 37.53 seconds. Xiao was yet again faster than Cyno here, and like how I used Traveler for the Electro characters, I am using Bennett for Xiao since he's probably the best single character as a buffer for Xiao. Rewatching this, I realized I used Sacrificial Sucrose to provide Xiao the animal particles he needed to get a second burst, but I usually allow for batteries to be on these types of teams. While Xiao isn't able to burn through both forms of Masanori in a single burst, he was able to cleanly do it in 2 team rotations in 31.5 seconds. Up next we have Keqing and Razor versus the hulking man named Masanori. Keqing was noticeably slower than either Xiao or Cyno for taking out Masanori's first form. However, somehow she managed to take out Masanori's second form much more quickly. Masanori's first form is an animation locked fight, where he needs to complete his current animation to move on to his next phase. Anyway, Keqing managed to close the gap on Cyno and ended up with a 38.97 clear time, which is only 1.43 seconds slower than Cyno's. Razor also did much better in this fight than he did in the previous two. It's quite empowering when Razor's heavy impact slashes just smash through Masanori's guard stance. Thanks to Razor's own self-battering capabilities, he's also able to nearly fill up his burst without the help of a battery like both Xiao and Cyno. While not the fastest, our underdoggo friend wasn't far behind with a 44.5 second clear time. We have one more really shocking section, and that is the brand new 3.1 Abyss 12. For the full team, Keqing, Cyno, and Razor are all using Favonius Noblesse Traveler, Stringless Gilded Dreams Fischl, and Favonius Tenacity Zhongli. Xiao's team has Sapwood Noblesse Bennett, Thrilling Tales Sucrose, and Favonius Tenacity Zhongli. I'm going to try something new here and show all four of these Abyss runs at the same time, and be sure to let me know how you feel about that layout. Right off the bat, you probably noticed the lack of animo in Cyno's team, and that had a pretty large impact in 12-1-1. Unfortunately for Cyno, both Zhongli and a second Electro character are highly preferred for an aggravate team like this one. Without Zhongli, it's quite aggravating to use Cyno as he'll just get knocked around by so many attacks. And without a second Electro like Fischl, Cyno can often have energy issues. Then there's the issue of Cyno's hitboxes, as he lacks large cleaving hitbox to hit a large group of robots like in 12-2-1. It's surprisingly difficult to hit both the lumbering dino robots with Cyno's attacks. And heck, even Dendro Traveler has issues applying enough Dendro on the enemy for long enough for Cyno's comically long 18-second burst duration. Then we have 12-3-1 with these annoying Vishaps. These are mostly annoying because of all of Cyno's knockback. It's very difficult to keep our cute little baby lizard friends together for Cyno's mediocre AoE to mercilessly slaughter. Alas, a nearly 3-minute clear time for our debatably favorite mask-donning DPS character. Well, Xiao has yet again proven that he is the ultimate mask wearer at Constellation 0 if we were to base mask wearing prowess on one of my DPS showdowns. Xiao's natural synergy with Sucrose gave him some distinct advantages, especially in 12-1-1, where Xiao is by far the fastest for clearing it. Sucrose's grouping and swirls put in a ton of work, and then allowed Xiao to instantly clean up the first wave and begin working on the second wave. Xiao only needed 2 rotations to clear 12-1-1 thanks to his Animo teammate. Although the typical Xiao problem of needing to battery himself and his whole team is extremely evident here in 12-2-1. Despite that, 12-2-1 is overall another chamber that heavily favors Xiao in this DPS showdown. These robots don't get knocked back, and Xiao's radial AoE helps him easily hit all the robots, whereas Cyno really struggles to hit all the robots. And the single one of Xiao's full rotations did just enough damage to barely leave the robots alive, which is ideal for allowing Xiao's team to battery itself before the next chamber. As for 12-3-1, I was really close to one-cycling these cute baby lizards, but every time I was just a bit shy of accomplishing it. In the end, Xiao ended up with a 117 clear time, over a minute faster than Cyno's. Next up is our favorite OG waifu, Keqing. Keqing has a few traits here that she wasn't able to capitalize on in her overworld showcase. Keqing is incredibly flexible and has a massive burst in terms of AoE size. This massive burst allows her to hit entire waves of enemies, unlike Cyno, who can only hit 1, 2, or maybe 3. Also, Keqing's low cooldowns and ability to swap off without losing her damage provides her teammate with the freedom to battery up, refresh Oz, drop more meteors, you name it. 12-2-1 is definitely where Keqing's damage does feel lower than the others, but by prioritizing her burst, she's able to get the most out of its giant AoE to hit multiple robots, and this allows her teammates to have more time to focus on their stuff as well. 12-3-1 is annoying as always, but again, Keqing's massive burst AoE was tremendously helpful, and she was basically used as a quick swap character here to avoid all the knockback on her other attacks. Basically, I just alternated between Zhongli's heavenly meatball and Keqing's frantic slashes. Thanks to the comparatively remarkable flexibility, Keqing's team completed this in 141.6 seconds, nearly 30 seconds faster than Cyno's team. And last up, we have the edgiest character in Genshin Impact, at least based on his name, Razor. Now, let me get a little rant out of the way first. The Serpent Spine feels terrible to use for DPS showdowns. You have to wait forever for the buff to stack with every single attempt. It is an absolutely unpleasant experience. I also grabbed an 80 Elemental Mastery card in 12-2-1 to improve Razor's damage potential, which also helped Fischl a bit as well. Anyway, Razor and Cyno's performances here were sadly similar in this full team situation, since a lot of these teams' performances are based on their supports, and since Razor and Cyno have very similar weaknesses in their long burst durations and inability to swap off, and since their AoEs are actually roughly the same, it felt interchangeable to use one or the other in this DPS showdown. Of course, Cyno's and Razor's runs can be improved, but I was shocked by just how similar their times were here. Cyno's greater amount of knockback as well also caused more harm than good, and it did feel like Razor's cleave size was a bit larger and easier to use than Cyno's. In the end, Razor ended up with a surprisingly close time to Cyno at 186.9 seconds. Let's take a quick look at the final results. When it comes to just raw damage output, it's unsurprising that Xiao was significantly faster with his raw damage against the Cryo Regisvine. However, even factoring in a single teammate, Dendro Traveler for the Electro Kids and Bennett for Xiao, Xiao was still ahead of the rest of them. It appears that currently between Xiao and Cyno, Xiao is the strongest mask wearer as of today. But I also found Keqing's performance to be better than I expected, considering her flexibility and being a quote-unquote free character that many of you have by losing your 50/50s. And Razor, well, technically, despite losing in every category, he wasn't categorically behind either Keqing or Cyno. Personally, I was hoping for Cyno to be a significantly better aggravate DPS than a 4-star physical DPS character and a 5-star disappointment when you pull on the gotcha. And while he is a bit better in my opinion than those two, he didn't really feel much better to use over the other two. And in fact, in a full team situation where you want to swap a lot, Cyno actually did much worse than Keqing did. Now, one thing that Cyno does have going for him is that the deathmatch is really similar in performance to the White Tassel. So in a completely free-to-play environment, perhaps Cyno would have a better chance against a Black Cliff Polearm Xiao. However, both Razor and Keqing have access to the Lion's Roar as well as the Rain Slasher, which is great for them. Anyway, Razor was tremendously boosted in comparison to the rest of them thanks to the Serpent Spine being by far the best Battle Pass weapon. Anyway, let me know what you think about today's first ever 4-character DPS showdown in the comments below. I don't plan to make this a regular thing as it takes a ton of extra work to do this, but hey, who knows. And also let me know who you want to see Constellation 6 Refinement 5 Cyno face off against in the next DPS showdown. These DPS showdowns do take me a ton of time to make, so if you enjoyed it, do smash that subscribe button to see future character comparisons and showcases. And if you are in the process of getting a VPN anyway, do check out today's sponsor, NordVPN, as they really help make these videos possible. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.